Hello guys, I am Deo Deloy. I am an English teacher. I love to teach things related to writing, but I'm also affiliated with the fields of linguistics, campus journalism, research, and English content and pedagogy. So the last time I did discuss about how to write an essay and how to write a position paper. So for those who are interested to watch videos and sample of those, so you may like my page or subscribe in my YouTube account humbly. So thank you for those who have watched, and then kindly just like and comment and subscribe in all of the videos or in some of the videos that you'll be able to watch in there. So for today's video, I wanted to discuss things related to writing a critic. So critic has been writing a critic has been part of the curriculum for writing classes, even in humanities subjects, arts subjects, in English for academic and professional purposes, in 21st century literature, and as well as contemporary arts in the Philippines for senior high school students. So this particular task has been considered as one of the tough activities for senior high school students or for college students. So it's necessary that I'm going also to share, uh, not really necessary, but rather I think I would definitely love also to share some of my inputs or insights about this particular topic, in order for the students also to have some sort of knowledge or learning about how to write a particular critique. So my focus for today's video is writing a critique on art, particularly on painting. But disclaimer lang po, I'm not an artist. I'm not also a painter. I'm just a fan of art. And as a writer, I feel that I have this responsibility to have also um, assessment or an analysis of a particular artwork if if I love it or if I would like it. This is actually how I appreciate the artist. So I tend to produce or write my own critic, but I'm not really sure if it could really satisfy the artist. So forgive me if you think that there are erroneous statements in my words. So if you just really wanted to correct me, so just comment as well for my improvement. Now, again, this is just my personal opinion. This is just my personal interpretation. But in a way, since critic is also a subjective interpretation of a reader or an audience, so just let me have my presentation in here. So but then again, I'm just really going to what they call this one. Try my best to present a humble output of mine. So for this video's goal, I just really wanted to first discuss the concept of a critique, especially in art or painting, and what is really the significance of critique. And then I want also to discuss the structures of a critique, focusing as well as on elements of painting. Though I'm not a painter or an artist, but I would really love to discuss at least the basic one, which is considered to be my primary foundations in having the critic paper. And I want also to share to you a sample critic or art critic that I have written, and I hope again that it could help the students on how are we going to or how they're going to write, because in this case I tried to blend my humble capabilities on writing in my readings about painting, the basic one, in order for me to really create my own written critique rather. So let me proceed now to the discussion. So what is really a critique? So a critique is a detailed analysis or an assessment on something. Again, it's a detailed analysis or assessment on a particular something. So it could be in a written form, obviously. So I think the most striking and the most um, practical way in having the assessment or the critic is actually what they call this one, in the form of writing. So it could be in literature, it could be in art, it could be a person, or it can be an event or a place, just anything. If you have a detailed assessment on that, if you have a critical analysis on a particular something, then that can be considered as a written critique. Okay, so what's the importance of writing a critique or a written critique? Well, in my perception, since it is an analysis, since it is requiring a critical analysis or an assessment of that particular something, like for example in art or music or painting or a literature, it would really develop the authors or the audience's critical analysis. Why? Because if you are going to critique on a particular something, you need to have a critical reading and a critical writing. So it's a combination of these two macro skills. So you're going to have critical reading, that means you really need to have a foundation in learning a lot of things on a particular task, the basic at least, in order for you to incorporate that particular knowledge into your writing. So again, by psychology, you cannot give what you do not have. So if you do not read something about that particular thing, like the author, his or her style, his or his manner of maneuvering whatever is his craft, like art or a literary piece. So if you do not read or know the background of that particular thing, the author, his style or whatsoever, it would be really difficult for you to write. So in a way, having the critic is a combination of being able to read critically and being able to write critically as well. So it is really important because for the audience, we could really develop our HOTS, our higher order thinking skills. Imagine that you're going to read objectively and then you're going to write objectively and subjectively as well. So that's why you have actually your interpretations. Now, um, I wish to discuss now on the structures that I have had or I have gathered from my readings. And again, disclaimer lang, this is actually based from my humble readings and I hope that you could really relate into it. So there's still introduction, body, conclusion, guys, for the students, for the writers. Hindi mawawala si introduction, body, conclusion. But for the critic, it's also another style of an academic paper. If you could see the painting at my back on the wall, it's actually the painting this is actually the painting which I tried to be. Uh, this is actually the painting which I used as a subject for my critique. Okay, so this painting is painted by G. Sarigumba, one of the local artists here in Sawata, San Isidro, Davao del Norte. So I really love the painting, so that's the reason it became my subject to my written critique. So I'm going to have a detailed account on that later. Um, so I made this one. So this is actually my proposed structure for a critique. So if you're going to observe, I believe since it is a combination of academic and creative writing, one of the styles I tend to use is actually the two triangle structure of writing. So it's an hourglass. When we talk about two triangle structure in writing, it's one of the difficult structures, can I say, because you're going to present first the main idea, but not totally revealing it, and in the center, you're going to discuss the body, which are the details, and then you are going to have another presentation of the main idea at the end. So this is considered to be the affirmation. So that becomes two triangles, and then at the same time, or it's called an hourglass. So in writing kasi, we have the parang geometric structures. So when we talk about triangle structure, it means to say it's inductive method where the author presents first the what they call this one, the details. So details muna siya, and then i-reveal niya yung main generalization or main idea at the end. So that's inverted, not, that's the triangle, okay? So from details to the main idea. So from smaller space to the bigger spaces. So that's the structure for the triangle. Now for the inverted triangle, it's the common or the most common way of writing, because the author would present first the what do you call this one? The main idea at the beginning, so generalization, then before presenting the different details. So that's actually the common. The square, that particular structure of a square, it means to say the main idea or the message of the entire output or essay is implied. So you're just going to read it, not literally, because the main idea seems to be hidden. It's just really running across or around within the structure, within the essay, within the output, and then you're just really going to analyze it with such implications. So it's not really obvious. I think that's the most difficult because it requires a deeper understanding. But for the two triangle, I think this can be one of the better presentations for a critique, especially for an art, because you're going to present again the main idea, the general interpretation first, then you are going to discuss the body, the details, and then have the affirmation, the next part of the main idea at the end. So kasi yung writing a critic, it's actually a combination of what they call this one, subjective and objective assessment. So you really need to have the background knowledge and different elements of painting, or the basic structures of or elements of an essay or a literature, if you wanted to really analyze it well, because before you can give your subjective comments or opinions on a particular um, output or that particular something to be criticized or to be critiqued. Now, again and again, it's a combination of objective and subjective analysis. Though sometimes, not sometimes, but really most often, the interpretations for critique or the analysis of the for the critique is subjective, because it has what they call this one, it's your opinion as an author or as an audience or as an reader. So we could do nothing about that one because you're the one interpreting. But again and again, it's also nice that once you're going to interpret, though it's subjective, at least knowing some basic elements on a particular thing being criticized, sorry, at least in that way you become objective as well. So I'm just really going to explain that one later in the sample. So the structure is, obviously you have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So again, hindi yun mawawala. But for the hourglass or the two triangle structure, you are going to present first the main idea. So that's your interpretation. So once you are able to see the painting na, you're able to, what I call this one, have a glance on it, you have read the title, the author, and as well as you are able to describe or see the subjects found in the painting. So you can actually, through the title and through your first description or first observation of the painting, you can already have the general interpretations ahead in your mind. But definitely, you cannot express it totally unless you're able to present the details. So that's the reason in the body you will have now the obvious detailing. So the details can be the details of the painter. So if you have known some backgrounds about the painter, her style or his style in how she or he paints, so that's one detail. And then what's inside in the painting, and obviously I think to make it really a painting critique, you need to have at least basic knowledge or basic understanding on the different elements. So I'm going to discuss now, at least, though I'm not actually the right person to discuss this nine elements of painting. Ha, this is just based from my reading. You can see the reference in my um, resource or the reading in my critique later. But allow me to discuss the basic elements based on my understanding. So when we talk about color, obviously this is the hue. So it's in the heart of every painting. Like it's really difficult not to use color because color speaks a lot in the painting, and I think everyone naman understand what color is. Next is the tone. So it discusses how it's related to color. So it discusses how dark or light the paint is. So if it's too dark, probably there's something what they call this one, parang an emotional baggage. Usually those are the interpretations that we have. If it's very if it has full of light, that means it's purity or in the good directions. So most cases, those are the interpretations if we're going to talk about the tone. So how dark or how lightful the paint being used. Okay, so the line, so this is actually the narrow mark made by a brush. So the brush, this what they call this one, strikes, or the brushes decides, the brush decides on how, what they call this one, how you present the lines in your painting. Next is the shape. So when we talk about the shape, um, it is an enclosed area that made the lines met or meet rather. So it means to say um, what shape is being created. The space, so there are two types of space. I've learned this one based from my reading. So positive space, so this is the subject. The subject itself, the space of the subject, and then the negative space is actually the area within the painting outside the subject. So parang the subject in the painting at my back is actually the hourglass, and the remaining what they call this one, spaces there or space there outside from the main subject are considered to be the negative one. I'm not certain on this one, ha, but just really try to understand the concept. Next is the texture. So it's the pattern within the painting made by the brush strokes themselves. So what they call this one, texture. So I think oils are thicker than acrylics, if I'm not mistaken. So that's one of the considerations for texture. If you can have on a literal note, you can have the roughness or the softness of the painting itself. So if you can feel the painting, probably the oils are thicker. You can really emphasize there the texture of the painting, and as well as the what they call this one, the acrylic. But I think more convincing yung um, oil, but it's difficult, of course. So for composition, it's actually the arrangement of the painting. So where you place the subject, the other elements, or the other things being considered in the painting. So composition is the arrangement. The direction, it's related to the movement or the perspective. So um, where are the elements or the subjects are heading to in the painting, their movements. So that's the direction. And the last one, based on my reading, is actually the size. So it refers to the scale of the painting itself, how big it is, how small, how did the author utilizes um, the canvas, the measurement of the canvas in order to maneuver his or her art. So I think those are some of the basic understanding that I have about the elements of the painting. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, if there are erroneous statements in my um, erroneous statements coming from my mouth. Now, let's proceed to the sample that I have given. So again, recap muna tayo. So this is how we are going to have the, what I call this one, the structuring. So let's attempt if in my sample, I was able to, what I call this one, concretize or solidify the structure that I have. Because sometimes it's really difficult that we have this theory, like for example, this structure. Sometimes it becomes difficult if we're going to apply it in the real essay writing or in the real critic writing. But we are going to, what I call the one, we are going to obviously attempt and try our best to produce a particular output. So let's proceed now to the sample that I'm given. So let me just fix. By the way, the conclusion, this is the main idea. That means the affirmation of the general interpretation. So you are going to confirm in here or affirm in here what you have generally interpreted at the beginning, and then you're going to have the judgment. So judgment call out. How do you assess the painting? What's your comment on the painting? Are you going to recommend the painting or something like that? So those are the different parts of the painting. So let's proceed now to a sample critique focus on the art. I hope that you are going to sustain yourself as I present this one. I think this would take 20 to 30 minutes because I'm going to really detail it in account. Okay, so just listen to my voice while I'm having this one. So, the title of the critic is The End of Time is the Time of the End, a short critique to the painting Time in the Fall of Man by G. N. Sarigumba by yours truly, Excelsis Deo Deloy. So let me read the entire manuscript or the entire critique. Thus we came from, thus we shall return. So this is actually my style. One line lead or one line paragraph. Yun. So that usually is actually my way of presenting the idea. So life is a journey, cliche as it may sound. It has its beginning, process, and end. We do not know exactly what the future holds. We have plans, we have dreams, but the realizations or actualizations of those are not certain. One thing is for sure, along with our journey in this life, time is there. Time is the witness of our past, whether it was great or catastrophic, time was there. We had different experiences that defined who we are in the past. We had good deeds, we had sins. Sorry for my pronunciations. We had our accomplishments, we had our failures, but time in the past is part of our history, and whether the events in our lives are epic fail or historic on our grounds, it is in the past now. The most important time that we should consider is our present. This is the gift of now. How we see ourselves at the moment defines who and what we are at present. As they say, live life to the fullest while we are still breathing. The future is unknown in a way, but as expected, we have our goals to achieve. It will always be better to prepare for it. Some do investments for our children, others work harder for our futures, travels, and so on. We may be able to make calculations and approximations in the future as our preparations, but the fact is we will never know of what is really going to happen. Along with our voyage with time is the fear of our fall, in the end, our death. For those who have lived their lives with fulfillment, especially the old, they may not fear death anymore, for they have achieved already the Abraham Maslow's highest human need, self-actualization. Great for them, they are ready to face the master of end. But how about those who still wish to live longer? The young are still wanting to enjoy life, parents want to live and to raise their children, students are still pursuing their education. professionals who wish to travel, and the rest of the humanity still want to enjoy what life could offer. Most of them fear death. With the considerations of the uncertainties we have about time and when this journey ends, we all have this question concerning afterlife. What is next in the other side? The end of man is not here in the physical earth. It is the judgment of the other side. Most of the religious beliefs indoctrinate that we have next life in the spirit world, and our ascension or fall depends on how we have lived in our physical life here on earth. Those who have done good and pleased the Supreme Being will be risen, and those who have done the opposite will reach their fall. Life in the heavens is eternal for the righteous and the wise. Fearfully, those who have lived a wicked and evil life along with time, their fall is endless. So the thought above are the prime interpretations I have had upon seeing the bravura of details found in the masterpiece painting of Miss Gian Sarigumba, a young artist of San Isidro, Davao del Norte, Philippines. Now, if you're going to have the, what they call this one, the introductory part to the beginning of main idea, you can really observe in the critique that I have already established a general interpretations of that particular art, my critique on that particular art of Sarigumbas. Now, if you're going to observe how I presented the words, it seems that I'm really focusing on the time, our journey with the time, because if you're going to observe the title Time and Fall of Man has helped me to analyze that this particular painting is really about time. And if you're going to observe, um, if you can have the glance for the painting, you can observe there um, sand, but along with the sand, or the along with the sand falling, you can see their people, the humanity, and then ano yan, they represent the sun, and then they're falling. So in this part, my focus is actually on time in the end. Okay, so I did discuss the past, the beginning, and then I also presented arguments related in the future and as well as in the present. But at the latter part of the critic, I really focused on the end, particularly the death. So, who and what we are in the end, because that's the focus of the title, Time and the Fall of Man. The fall of man in here focuses on his or her end, at the end, of course. So, there is already a general interpretation representing the hourglass structure of an essay, or the two triangle. But then again, I did not yet present or express fully the general interpretations because there's still half waiting at the end. So I need to stop there muna in order for me to present the details. So these are now the basic details, which is composed of the main body. So the objective interpretation combined with the subjective analysis. So the thoughts above are the prime interpretations I've had upon seeing the bravura of details found in the masterpiece painting of Miss Gian Sarigumba, a young artist of San Isidro, Davao del Norte, Philippines. As a painter, she has fascinations on the surrealist paintings but also competent in the naturalist and realist arts. Her skills are evident in her masterpieces and her humble beginnings. I could see already the potential, especially with how she maneuvered the details of her painting, Time and the Fall of Man, painted on February to April 2019. Um, the imagination, creativity, and finality of output represent how promising she is being a painter. So that's focus on the painter, so that's an obvious detail. The painting as a combination of elements of realist, abstract, and expressionist revolution has resulted to a superb art paralleling the constructs of surrealism. It is so magnificent. So sometimes you need, as art lover, I think you need also to read revolutions like what's realist painting, the abstract, and the expressionist. And then in her side, she was able to combine all of those free elements, and then she was able to channel that one to form constructs of surrealism. So surrealism art seems to be art because you're going to combine elements such as yun nga sinabi ko, the expressionist, the abstract, and the realist. Okay, so the art seems weird at first glance. Well, that makes it surrealist, for the subjects or elements involved are uncommon. The just juxtaposition of details found are so intriguing and mind-blowing. As for objects found, the most highlighted part is the hourglass at the center, which is of course represents the concept of time in the art. But as you go along with the details, you can see that the inside of the glass are not just the fine sand, but also images of people fallen from the top and who vanished from the grounds. This concept perhaps stresses the fall of man in the title of the painting. The concept of the art is brilliant that along with time, humanity will reach its end once he has fallen from the top of the part of the hourglass. So it's already a combination of subjective and objective analysis, because I did mention in here what's inside in the painting, what's the subject in the painting, the obvious way, and a deeper interpretation. The painting requires someone to have a critical form of understanding added with a comprehensive creativity and imagination to interpret well the art. The details, of course, are not literal. It is not just on the interpretive and analytical levels. The creative assessment is deeper and more spiritual. So it's not just interpretive, it's not just analytical, it becomes more spiritual. So that's the reason I did discuss things related to our Almighty and the Almighty Father, the judgment, in the end, at the beginning of the critique. As an interpreter, I wish to tackle every element found in the painting for me to showcase how I am invited and fascinated with the art presented. One of the greatest skills of a painter is knowing and applying the colors. So we are now talking about the elements, and of course the first is color. Colors, and Sarigumba has it all. The most beautiful part of the painting is the combination of colors up in the sky. It seems that it is connecting to the galaxies, the universe. The painter really knows how to make the colors logical in order from left to right, from top down to bottom. The color of the painting is a journey. As a fan of art, I could really say that she managed flexibility of time as far as color is concerned. One could hardly determine if it's dawn or twilight, sunset or sunrise. The shading of the gold and the varieties of yellow are just so perfect. The different shades of red and orange may be connotating fire, but my eyes desire to touch it. The shades of red are really inviting. Making transitions to flaming yellows and red to dark blue sky can be challenging, but the painter manages it well in a very smooth manner. You can see shades of indigo, violet, blue, and the points of white which represent the celestial bodies and make the painting more convincing as a link to the universe. Though I'm more fascinated with the color details of the sky, I cannot also deny the beauty of the painting's surface. What also amazes me is the color of the waters in the left side. It is not blue turquoise aquamarine. It is golden yellow, which makes it more appealing to the eyes. It seems that the sun rays kiss the water, metamorphosizing it to fluid gold. On the other side are the hills of green. I'm not a fan of the color in this part, but in the way, this is acceptable for it complies with the logic that is connected with gray road. Well, the shades of the brown are well done, and I'm not sure, but there is a lacking shades in the color gray of the road, and I'm not convinced with the blue bench of sidewalk at the right, but it's acceptable as the painter did it to minimize the power of the yellow. Anyways, the color of the hourglass in the inside of it being the center is beyond imagination. The silhouette and the nude illusion are perfectly done. I am very impressed with the color of the glass. It is like printed digitally, and the sand of the bodies of humans unbelievable. Bravo. Now, if you're going to observe the discussion, the color, so if you talk about the element of color, you really need to detail the different colors found in the painting and the colors of the object. And that's how I did. I put creativity, I put also the interpretive discussion, the colors, and at the same time, I also make some constructive criticisms in there that there are parts or there are colors found in the painting that I'm not a fan of. that much. But again, those are considerable, especially of how the painter uses um, the 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 colors which ignite parang nude illusions and perfection of the what they call this one, the people or the humanity found inside the hourglass. So it's really bravo. Now, with how the painter presented the marvels of the colors and as an element of painting, it is expected that the tone is undeniably excellent as well. I have actually problems on my mouth. I'm not really good at pronunciation, sorry. The transitioning and the mixing of colors, the elements of light and dark, the details and the enumerations of the found in every surface of the painting is over the top. I do not know how the painter could do this one, but I must say that her color palettes may have been mixed with hundreds of shades. I cannot count how many shades are present in the painting. The adjustment of the colors as you travel with every part of the painting is beyond. The shades of yellow and red require the highest form of potentials, and the tones of the yawning void, blue, that represents the endless universe, is divine. The tone of the gray colors of the road is not saleable in me, but then again, it's acceptable. The tone of gold and brown in the artless ends the discussion on how unbelievable the painter is. The third element I wish to tackle in my narrative is the line. When we talk about the line of painting, we are not just talking about the straight, the curve, the diagonal lines, or any type of line. What we are covering here is the main material that creates the line and how convincing is the stroke, and that is the brush. So the line here talks about the strokes of the brush. So brushes, as expected, come from different sizes and volume. I'm not sure with my term, forgive me. As a painter, for you to be skilled in the element of line, you must also have the knowledge of the paint brushes, for they create lines. As to the painting, I must say that the lining is also very competent. The lines in the left side, the yellow waters, and the flaming red sky, and the calming blue at the top are well delivered. The artist uses darker shades in the main color to emphasize her lining. As expected, she uses different sizes of the brush, as evident in the detailing. The most observed lines are found on the left side of the painting, like the ones separating the sky and the water, and different lines in the sky that create different shapes, forming the clouds in the shades of red, orange, from left across to the right middle of the painting. The only concern that I have as far as the lining is concerned is the lines in the mountains at the lower right part is not that convincing. It could have been more emphasized. The lines in the gray road are logical anyway, but the line details in the hourglass is once again striking. Her lining in the shape of the hourglass showcases the illusion that the painting is three-dimensional. I love it. Sorry for the ungrammatical errors. Unedited pa ito. The shape is another important element for an art. So this one is the fourth one. Perhaps these are the images formed with how the painter facilitates her lines. In the case of painting, The Time and the Fall of Man, the most highlighted image which concerns this element is the hourglass. Going back to the concept, the surrealism, the art may be realist or the constructionist as far as shapes are involved. In this case of Sarigumba, she decided to have the shape of main subject, and the realist presentation aiming to attain shape perfection, the glass. If that is the goal, well, definitely my applause is for her. The shape is a perfection. So I'm really caught with the shape of the art glass. It's perfectly maneuvered. So congratulations to the painter. Again, in connection with the line, she was able to create three-dimensional look, and it becomes more powerful being added with the details of the shape. What makes also the painting attains its believability is the design the paintings handle. It seems being inspired by traditional Asian wood carvings combined with a vulnerable glass, making it appear as an old or ancient artifact that is worth millions of dollars. Perhaps the shape of the hourglass helps the painting more transcending. Repeatedly, the shape and the size of the hills or mountains on the right side is not again convincing. They are too small for me, not being logically justifying the shape of the gray road. There are two general types of space in painting. So this one is the fifth space, the positive space, which focuses on the subject itself, and the negative space, the remaining area found around the subject of the art. I commend the painter on both positive and negative spaces that she has. The space in the hourglass is enough to emphasize the details that are ongoing on inside. The vacuum at the topmost part of the glass provides the interpretation that time is running as the sand in the form of humanity is falling. Upside down to the glass, you can find balance there as far as space is concerned. The distance also from the middle to the lower ground, the glass is believing convincing enough to highlight the images of people falling. The positive space of the hourglass is not big, neither too small. it is sufficient to express the needed details. Thankfully, the painter was able to justify the bigger remaining negative space of the painting. I believe that once there is remaining big space in the art, it would be difficult for the painter to cope with the remaining details she wants to place in her painting. The challenge is that if she wants to put other subjects, they must not overpower the positive space. Hence, there will be confusions to what really is the highlight. In the case of Sarigumba's art, she had a big negative space. I can sense that she had difficulty in addressing this one. However, she has showcased her skills in spacing as she used different shades of colors or tone in order to create the thought that the hourglass is found in the earth connecting to the universe. There seems to be no blank space in the left and the top of the painting except in the lower right, where the spaces created through green and gray colors are not enough to persuade me totally as far as this element is concerned. I can also attest to the excellence of the texture of the painting, for I was able to touch it by my own hands. I can feel its meticulousness and delicateness. It is smooth and well brushed. In a way, it is expected that since the painting is made out of acrylic and texture is not that rough, unlike the oil ones, which are thicker. But of course, I'm more impressed with the latter. Oil paintings are awesome as far as texture is concerned. As for the painting time and the Fall of Man, the texture is still competent, but I could not fully feel the canvas, perhaps because the painter applied finishing gloss to protect the painting and making it appear shiny. But the risk is it would lessen a bit the thickness of the art, affecting the texture. Notwithstanding, the masterpiece texture is still excellent. The next element focused in this essay is the composition. This concerns about the placements of subjects and details with the art. In the case of Sarigumbas, I do not really have issues as far as composition is concerned. I cannot suggest that the area should be placed either right or left, but part, since the rule of third in the photography is not applicable in the constructs of her paintings. I believe that the positioning of the hourglass at the center is enough to strikingly justify that it is the highlight of the paragraph. Additional details of the positioning of the road and the hills and the mountains are in a way logically presented to have balance in the yellow waters on the other side. Well, the composition is not that valuable in here, for the message of the art is considered as the highest concern to be tackled. Direction is another element of the painting that caught my attention from Sarigumba. In my previous comments, I'm really not a fan of her gray road color, but I must admit the direction of the road has a transcending meaning as part of the negative space. In my own interpretation, the road represents the journey of a man along with time we travel in life, denotatively and connotatively. And as the road being portrayed in the art, it seems to be unending, but with the elements of falling humanity inside the hourglass, it infers that no matter how long our journey in life, we still reach the destination of an end. The question is, when we reach that end, will we be risen or fallen? Focusing on the direction of the light in the painting, I can say that the painter made a logical detailing of the colors and subjects. From the tones of red, yellow, blue, gray, gold, they seem to follow the goal heading to the right side, but I'm not sure of the green color of the hills of the mountains because the line seems to be opposing, heading to the left direction. I'm not also sure in the logic of the shadow of the hourglass if it's logically complementing with the direction of all the lights found in the painting. Nonetheless, I appreciate more the interpretive meaning of the direction rather than the sequences of the direction's physical aspect. Finally, the last element in the size, well, the painting is 1.5 meter by width and 1 meter by height. It is pretty big enough, which requires a spacious wall. I think that the painter had a challenge as far as space of her art is concerned, for the canvas is big. Fortunately, she was able to find ways to put not overly injected details, but rather she just played well with the tones and the colors. I love the size of the painting, but it is more interesting. What's more interesting is the illusion of the painting that once you will look at it, it feels that you are also traveling by the road, and in a way, it helps your house become spacious as well with the kind of negative spaces it creates. There is magic in the masterpiece that I could not explain. So, yun na yung mga obvious details or accounts. It was really discussed or described well. Really tried my best to discuss them well, on my level, on my ground. But then again, I'm not an artist, okay? So, those are the body. Now, let's proceed now to the other half or the second half of the general interpretations or meaning, which are considered to be the affirmations of the first general interpretation that we had at the beginning. Again, we are following the two triangle or the hourglass structure. You know what? Just an insight. Use I have made use on the two triangle or hourglass structure because it was also insightful. Parang intuition lang din that the subject of the painting is an hourglass. So I need also to have an essay na parang hourglass din yung structure. So parang nag-complement lang din yung pinili kong structure na ng essay or the type of the essay structure that I use complements actually with the subject of the painting, which is the hourglass. So parang okay lang. So here's now the other half, the general interpretation, which is considered to be the affirmation and the judgment, the conclusion at the end. With all of my narratives and the brilliance of specific elements of the painting, the general meaning of the art has really caught my cognition and soul. The painting is a statement of reflection. Life in earth is temporary. No matter what riches we acquire, no matter how we have lived, no matter how we have processed things, no matter what means we have used, and no matter what age we have reached, at the end of the day of time, we will reach the common destination, death. So as long as we still have life, we must live it in accordance with the goodness and righteousness, guided with the wisdom of the Almighty in the heavens. Live life with good, we shall be risen. Live life with evil, we shall be fallen. Time and the Fall of Man, as the title of the painting, does not only emphasize on the fate of man through his death in the physical world, but much more his demise throughout eternity, and that is the truest meaning of the thought, the fall of man in his time. To suffice, I commend the painter for everything great she has done in her painting. I may have had minute concerns, such as in the lower right part of the painting, which can be her basis to improve her work for the next arts she will deliver, but in all, she is amazing. I love the concept of the painting, the perfection of each element, and the general subjective interpretations that I have. One big evidence on how I adore the art so much was my genuine intention of having the acquisition of it, so I bought it. So the readings, so I have my readings in the elements. So my courtesy to Evans M 2020, the elements of painting. And you can check that one from www.truscraps.com. So for the elements of painting, I have readings again. But the rest of the job in here, so I really tried my best. I do not know if my best is enough for the real artist, but in my case, I did try my best on writing this. So I'm hoping that again I'm really hoping that I was able to help you guys in having the discussion on the critiques. So again, the critique is um, a subjective and detailed, and also it can be objective analysis or interpretations on a particular thing like the art, the literature. So I hope I can also present um, um, literary criticism, or I can also present what they call this one, critiques on poems, or how to criticize a poem or a literary piece or a prose or a story or short story or novel based on the different approaches to literary criticisms in the future. But for now, I hope that you really learned something about how to write a critique, particularly in the art. So that's how it is done. So again, basically, you just really need to read a lot. If your teacher is going to task you about write a critic about this particular sculpture, write a critic about this particular music. So one of the best ways that you are going to do is to really read, discover, research about at least the basic of those things, so that you will be able to write something in your critique as a written output, as an academic output. So again and again, thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry for the stuttering. I'm sorry for the some of the ungrammaticalities and some of the mispronunciations of words. Okay, so I hope that you can forgive me on that. So please subscribe to my channel if you wanted to um, learn something more about writing academic papers. It Your likes and subscriptions are also a big help for me to be more inspired in doing all of these things. So again and again, I'm very positive with your constructive criticisms, and I hope I was able to help, especially in this topic, writing a critique. So good night, everyone.